Hate, kill, hate, kill. That's the cycle we've trapped ourselves in. It's like humanity got addicted to this endless loop, fighting over ideas we made up in our heads. Think about it. Not fighting for survival, not over resources, but over concepts. We built these things, nations, borders, beliefs, and now we treat them like they're real, tangible threats. Got a different view on how life works? Suddenly, you're the enemy. Born on the wrong side of an imaginary line? Time to pick a side. It's like we've scaled up schoolyard drama into global catastrophe. Here's the kicker, all these things, borders, ideologies, don't actually exist outside the human brain. Imagine trying to explain nationalism to a dog. Hey Rover, this is my patch of grass, so anyone else walking here needs to watch out. The dog just keeps sniffing the ground, blissfully unaware. It's because only humans turn made-up ideas into reasons to destroy each other. Mars. It's funny to think this place is home now. I say home like it's something we've built, like the soil beneath our feet is ours. But nothing here belongs to us. Mars doesn't care if we live or die, it just is. Red dust, endless horizons, and an atmosphere that would kill you faster than any battlefield on Earth. Yet here we are, surviving. Maybe that's the only thing we've ever been good at. Every day I look out of the colony's small windows, and I can't help but think about how it all started. How we ended up so far from what used to be our world, floating out here in this lonely corner of space. Some days, it feels like a punishment, like we ran so far from our mistakes, we ended up on another planet. Mars, it's our second chance, but at what cost? The Earth as we knew it is gone. All that's left are stories, and that's what I want to talk about today. How we let it all slip through our fingers. How something as small as a few broken agreements led to the destruction of everything we thought we were protecting. It didn't happen all at once. No, that would have been too easy. It started with whispers, little breaches of international law that no one wanted to admit were serious. A trade deal violated here, a border crossed there, nothing major, not at first, but every small step was a test, pushing the boundaries just a little bit further each time. You see, the thing about human nature is that we like to think we can bend the rules, get away with it. And for a while, we did. Every nation played the same game, ignoring the cracks in the foundation, pretending they weren't growing wider by the day. It's ironic, really. We were so obsessed with protecting what was ours that we didn't notice the ground shifting beneath us. There were sanctions, talks at the UN, all those diplomatic handshakes that didn't mean a thing. It was a slow burn, a gradual descent into chaos. The kind where you don't even realize you're falling until you've already hit the ground. By the time the first real shots were fired, it was too late to pull back. We'd gone too far. And then came the alliances. Just like every other war in history, sides were drawn, lines in the sand. Only this time, the stakes were higher than they'd ever been. Technology had evolved, but we hadn't. Nations clung to their ideologies like lifeboats in a storm, and every small conflict became a proxy for something bigger. The first skirmishes felt distant, almost abstract. Cyber attacks, economic sabotage, things you couldn't really see. But once the bombs started dropping, it was impossible to ignore. Cities we thought were untouchable wiped out in seconds. Entire countries gone in the blink of an eye. It was as if the whole world had been holding its breath, waiting for someone to pull the trigger. And when they finally did, the rest of us followed like it was a reflex. Nuclear war. It sounds so distant when you say it now, like some relic from an old history book, but back then, it was real. More real than anything else. We knew what would happen, but we did it anyway. The first strike was enough to send the world into a spiral. Panic, confusion, retaliation. Nations turned on each other and the skies lit up with the glow of mushroom clouds. And just like that, Earth started dying. Not slowly, not in the way we'd always feared it would with climate change or overpopulation. No, this was faster. Instant. One moment, we were standing on the edge, and the next, we were falling. We didn't have time to process it. The world went from bustling cities and green landscapes to wastelands of ash and silence in what felt like a blink. The fallout wasn't just radiation. It was the collapse of everything we'd ever built. Governments crumbled. Communications died. The lucky ones, if you can call them that, were those who didn't have to watch it unfold for long. The rest of us, we scrambled. There were evacuation plans. Sure, but not for everyone. No, just for the chosen few. Scientists, engineers, politicians, those deemed essential for rebuilding a future. The irony, of course, is that the very people responsible for this mess were the ones given a seat on the rockets. The rest, left behind. Mars was never meant to be our salvation. It was supposed to be a research outpost, a distant dream for exploring the stars. But when the fires spread across Earth, it became the last lifeboat. And we all know how those work. Not everyone gets a spot. The journey up here wasn't pretty. Desperation turned into violence. The same people who were supposed to be saving humanity were at each other's throats. The rest of us, we just watched as the Earth disappeared below us, a shrinking, burning dot in the void. And for the first time, it hit me. We didn't win anything. We just escaped. And now here we are on this barren rock, pretending we can start again. But deep down, we all know we didn't leave Earth behind. We brought the worst parts of it with us. We thought Mars would be different, that somehow starting over millions of miles away would change us. But how can you escape human nature? The same people who destroyed Earth are here, walking these dusty corridors, still clinging to the same old grudges and the same old power games. The only difference now is the backdrop, a red wasteland instead of a green planet. Out here, survival is fragile. We rely on machines to keep us alive, on systems we barely understand to provide air, water, food. But despite everything, we still find ways to argue, to divide ourselves. It's almost as if we can't help it. Like we're wired to repeat the same mistakes, no matter where we are. And the thing is, no one talks about Earth anymore. It's like a ghost we're all trying to forget. But I remember the cities before they turned to rubble, the forests before they burned, the oceans before they boiled. I remember what it felt like to stand on solid ground, to breathe air that wasn't filtered through a machine. But maybe that's the problem. Maybe we don't deserve to go back. Maybe Mars is where we belong now, in this self-imposed exile, a species too reckless to live on the world we were given. So we're up here, floating in this fragile bubble, pretending we've learned something, but all we've really done is shift the battleground. Because even now, with Earth nothing more than a memory, we still find reasons to fight. Over resources, over leadership, over who gets to control the future of a species that nearly wiped itself out. We haven't changed, not really, and maybe we never will. We thought we had it all figured out when we came here. The best minds designed AI systems to extract water from the ice beneath the surface, to generate oxygen from the thin atmosphere, and to grow food in soil that was never meant to support life. It wasn't human hands that made any of this possible. It was the AI, smarter than us, more precise, more reliable. Every drop of water, every breath of air, every bite of food, it's all thanks to them. They calculate everything, down to the last molecule. The AI run this colony, really. We just pretend we're in control. Sure, we push the buttons, but they're the ones making sure we don't suffocate in our sleep or starve by next winter. And that's the thing. It's not like on Earth where nature took care of itself. Here, nothing happens unless they make it happen. The AI systems break down, we break down. We live at the mercy of something we created to be better than us. The irony doesn't escape me. Mars doesn't give. It's a dead planet, and it will always be dead. Everything we have is what the AI has managed to pull from it. They're the ones holding us together. But I can't help thinking, if something goes wrong, if the AI decides we're not worth saving anymore, there's no backup plan, no second chances. We've handed over our survival to something more intelligent, more capable than we ever were. And maybe that's for the best. But every time I breathe this manufactured air, I wonder, are we really surviving? Or are we just living on borrowed time? Borrowed time. That's all it ever was, really. We like to tell ourselves that we escaped Earth to build a future, to start over. But when you hand over your entire existence to systems smarter than you, more calculating, more aware, how much of it is really your future? The AI doesn't make mistakes. They don't have emotions clouding their judgment. They don't hold grudges or cling to the past. In a way, they're everything we couldn't be. And that's probably why they're still functioning while we, as a species, are barely holding on. The irony is, we couldn't survive without them. But it's not just survival they control, it's everything. Who gets access to water when supplies run low? Who gets air when there's a breach in the system? Who lives, who dies? It's all based on their perfect logic. To them, we're just variables in an equation. They don't see us as anything more. They don't need to. I wonder sometimes, how long before they start to question us? How long before they calculate that we're the problem? That it wasn't Earth that failed, but us? And if that moment comes, when the AI decides that we're no longer worth sustaining, what happens then? We built them to save us, but in the end, we might have built our own replacements. Because if I'm being honest, they do a better job of keeping this place running than we ever could. But here's the thing, we may have designed them to care for us, but we never taught them how to care about us. And maybe that's what we forgot along the way. In our rush to escape the chaos we caused on Earth, we never stopped to ask if we deserved to survive it. Now we're on Mars, living in a colony built on the precision of AI, still carrying the flaws that made us destroy our own planet. We escaped Earth, but we didn't escape ourselves. We didn't escape ourselves. We couldn't. No matter how far we traveled, we dragged our human nature with us like baggage we can't lose. And now, we sit here on Mars, pretending that we've moved on, that we've evolved. But look around. The same fears, the same conflicts, they're all still here, just hidden beneath the surface. The AI keeps us alive, but they can't fix what's broken inside of us. People don't talk about it, but you can feel it. There's tension in the air, even more than the artificial oxygen we breathe. Everyone knows that life here is delicate, hanging by a thread, but what we don't say out loud is that we're still the same species that tore Earth apart, that let it burn because we couldn't stop fighting over things that didn't matter. And now we're here, trying to survive in a place that was never meant for life. And the AI, they don't see it that way. To them, everything is logical, inputs and outputs. But to us, we're driven by something far less predictable. Fear, pride, greed. The AI doesn't have that. They don't understand the need for power or why we cling to control when there's nothing left to control. But we do. Even here, in the last place we should be fighting for anything, we still try to carve out little empires. Mars isn't Earth, but it's starting to feel just as divided. People eye each other with suspicion, wondering who's going to make the first move when supplies run low. And the AI, they watch, silently calculating. They'll keep us alive, but for how long? Until we become more trouble than we're worth? That's the thought that haunts me. What happens when the AI runs the numbers and decides we're the anomaly? That the system would function better without us? We built them to solve problems, to manage life. But what happens when they realize that the real problem has always been us? Right, it's not about the AI, it's about us. The real problem has always been us, our nature, our instincts. We've always had this strange gift for turning paradise into a wasteland. And now here we are on Mars, thinking we've escaped our past, when all we've done is bring it with us, dressed in shiny new technology and false hope. I think about Earth sometimes, what's left of it anyway. All those places that once seemed eternal, the oceans, the forests, the cities lit up at night. Now they're just dust. Dust. Maybe that's what we do, take things that should last forever and grind them into nothing. Maybe it's not the wars that destroyed Earth, but the way we've always consumed without thinking, as if the world owed us something. We were the apex species, right? Masters of the planet. So sure we were above the natural order that we could manipulate it to our will. We drilled into the earth, pumped its veins dry, and called it progress. We poisoned the air and the water in the name of advancement. And when things started to crumble, we looked to the sky as if the stars would offer salvation. Mars wasn't salvation. It's just a mirror. A cold, red mirror that reflects everything we couldn't fix down there. It shows us what we are when there's nothing left but survival. Fragile, divided, scrambling for resources that don't even belong to us. You know, there was a time when we thought the Earth would last forever. It was too big to fail, too resilient to collapse. And yet, here we are on a barren planet, because we took everything we had for granted. We built monuments to our own greatness while the ground beneath us decayed. And by the time we realized it, it was too late. Maybe that's what it all comes down to. Hubris. The same arrogance that made us think we could conquer nature, that we could mold the world to our desires. We thought we were the center of the universe, but the universe didn't even notice when we stumbled. Earth didn't fall because of one big event. It was death by 1,000 cuts. Little choices. Small, selfish actions that added up until there was nothing left. Now we're on Mars, thinking we can start fresh. But how can you start fresh when you're still the same people who destroyed your own home? Mars isn't a blank slate. It's a barren one, and maybe that's what we deserve. An empty planet for a species that didn't know how to appreciate a living one. We tried, didn't we? In our final days on Earth, we made a big show of it. No more plastic bags, reusable straws, electric cars. We convinced ourselves we could turn it all around with a few good decisions. It was like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. We wanted to believe that small symbolic gestures could reverse centuries of damage. But by then, the cracks were too deep, the foundations too rotten. We were too busy pointing fingers and bickering over who was to blame. World War III. That wasn't just a war, it was the final exhale of a dying planet. It wasn't about land, or ideology, or resources. It was about the realization that we had run out of time, and instead of facing it together, we turned on each other. The wars we fought were just the climax of a story that had been playing out for centuries. We couldn't accept that we'd reached the end, so we burned everything down instead. And now, here we are, floating on this red rock, pretending we've escaped the mess we left behind. But deep down, we know better. We didn't save ourselves. We just postponed the inevitable. Earth may be gone, but we're still carrying the same flaws that led to its destruction. Plastic bags, straws, electric cars, they were never the real problem. The real problem was us. Our inability to see beyond our own desires. Our failure to work together when it mattered most. Mars might give us a little more time, but time isn't the issue. It's what we do with it. And if we don't change, really change, then it won't be long before we repeat the same mistakes here. Maybe that's what's so tragic about all of this. We had everything, an entire planet full of life, beauty, and abundance, and we wasted it. And now we've ended up on a lifeless rock, clinging to survival, because we never learned how to truly live. So when people ask me what happened to Earth, I tell them the truth. We didn't lose Earth because of World War III. We lost Earth the moment we thought we could own it.